Well, it's mighty good to see you again inside here, Lessons in Leadership. It starts with you. Hey, we're returning to the Unopened Gifts TV show and to Olympic champion Peter Vidmar. I want to encourage you to listen closely for the lessons. There are quite a few.
When I was younger, when I was in college, I could afford to spend all my time on me. I was in college, I had my school and studies to worry about and my gymnastics training to work out. When I became a husband and a father, I realized that if I were to put all my efforts into my career, that other things would take a back seat, and I wasn't willing to make that sacrifice. So my challenge then became not what's the next big thing I'm going to put all my energy into. The challenge was, how can I find the right balance in my life? And to try to be good at everything that I do, but find the balance. And I found that in finding the balance, I become better at the things that I could have focused more on because I kept everything in perspective. It helped me to put more focused attention on something for a period of time, knowing that I was going to be done with that after a certain time so I could focus on my family or my children or my child's sporting event or my volunteer service. And so I think as we get older, the bigger challenge is finding balance in our lives, because I think that's where we find real peace.
One of the most powerful aspects of listening to Peter is the concept I call story. You know, your life is your story, and your story is your life. All day long we're in conversations with ourselves, asking and answering questions, justifying things, making decisions. And what Peter amplifies in this version of story is how he had to learn to ask himself empowering questions. If we go back to the concept of values, Peter's value to be a world-class athlete, a physical specimen, if you will, was very clear by his Olympic journey or his athletic pursuits. But then he expanded his values and included family. So let's just say he magnified his values. Now, most on one of those paths would say there's no room for the second. Now that is actually a closed-minded way of looking at the game of life. What Peter does for us is he teaches us the power of asking empowering questions. Not why can't I, but how can I? If I'm going to pursue Olympic gold and be a father and be a husband and be whatever else he decided to be, he had to ask himself the questions to find a way to find the solutions within himself to proceed down that path to victory. He also did something that I don't think he expanded on here, which is worth talking about. He practices the Olympic art of saying no. Many times we let our mouth overload our backs. When we set priorities, there are only so many number ones we can have in our lives, and there's probably a top 2 or 3 at best. It's being willing to say no to the things that will interfere with what we want to have happen in our life is one of the most powerful things that Peter Vidmar gives to us. And finally, he gives us a gift I'll call adversity. Now, you'll learn in Peter's story that one of the most motivating things for him day in and day out was the story of his father. His father was a victim of polio. It made it very difficult for his father to get around, to walk much less. Now, the days that Peter was in the gym, 7 days a week, hours upon end, wanting that extra 15 minutes or whatever it took to beat whatever country it was to take him to the podium, he was tired. Often, fatigued, injured. He never talked about it. And when he had the courage to say to his father he did not want to proceed, he'd catch himself. Because if he didn't have the time to go into the gym, it was hard to say that to a man who couldn't walk. Adversity is probably one of the best teachers you'll ever come across in your life. In a setback is a gift. If you ask yourself an empowering question, what can this mean? What can be good about this in my life? And how can I use this setback as a force for good? You might find the key to your own values, the key to your own priorities, and your path to Olympic gold.
You know, it's not fun, but I think the greatest gift that God has given me is adversity and setbacks. And I haven't had tremendous adversity, but whenever I faced a challenge in life and have had to somehow figure out a way to overcome that challenge, I've learned more about myself, much more about myself and what my capacity is than when something came easily for me. And I've observed that, of course, in other people, like my father and other individuals that have really inspired me. And so just know that to really do something meaningful, it might get messy. It might not be a smooth road. And when we face those moments, we have to say, oh, this is we have to recognize it for what it is. This is one of those moments that we've been told could be a defining moment for me. Okay, now I've got to take this on. Identify it for what it is, and then tackle it and take it on. Because if we run away from it every time we face something like that, we're never really going to grow the way that we could grow, or the way that I think God intended us to grow. And so the problem is a lot of that stuff's not fun. It just isn't fun. But when we get to the other side, we go, wow, I don't ever want to do that again, but I sure am glad I went through that. And that really, really has inspired me to see people that have done that. And when I've experienced that maybe on a micro level in my little world, my little life, I too look back and say, that wasn't fun, but I sure learned a lot. I'm a better person because of it.
So of all the things we get from Peter Vidmar, one that comes ringing true to me is the concept of values. Understanding your highest priorities, your most important values, can be the foundation to support your life priorities. Focus is key, action is vital, and leveraging time. We all get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How we deploy our focus and our energy will lead to the results that we hope to get in our life. So it's perseverance. You got to see Peter on the podium having a medal put around his neck. What doesn't happen on those television programs or when we watch Wide World of Sports or whatever brings that to us is the countless hours of time, energy, focus, dedication, setback, injury, self-doubt that he had to push through, that all of us have to push through to get to where we ultimately want to go. It's about managing our story. All of us have a gift. You have a gift. The opportunity within this program is to recognize that gift. And the great thing about Peter's gift is he knew he had to give it away. As you look at your own gift and identify what your gift is, what's very interesting about the gift concept is you can't give it away unless you own it, but you don't get to keep it unless you give it away. So what's your gift? What are you going to do about it? We don't know in that game of 24/7 how much time we have. So as we wrap up and you think about your gift and the opportunity to give that gift away, now is the perfect time to start. Tomorrow is not promised. Last year I had an opportunity the day before Thanksgiving to bring my brother across the country into California and spend a considerable amount of time with my family and myself. Part of that time was going to be dedicated to his healing. He had battled addictions, something that gripped him for almost 48 years. I was convinced that if he spent some time with my family in a new environment, that perhaps we'd give him access to some resources to shift his life, to get him on a path to make a difference in the life of other people who are also trying to overcome addiction. Within 1 hour of picking him up from the airport, as I was driving him to my home with my young children, my brother had a massive seizure and passed away in the vehicle. His time was gone, like that. Now certainly I had plans for him, and maybe he had plans for him, but somebody else had bigger plans for him. The point being, we don't know how much time we have. The only time to get started is now. The obstacles will always be there. Adversity will always be there, but only you know what your gift is, what your purpose is, how to use that to the best of your ability, and how to make a difference in other people's lives with what you've been blessed with. I implore you to do it now. You don't know how much time you have, and I know you're gifted. Thanks for tuning in. Of the many gold medal moments, Peter reminds us of the power of questions. Not asking why I can't, but how I can. He says a practice of saying no gives a yes to our priorities. He also says adversity can be a gift. Now there's likely something for me to learn when I'm fighting something or resisting something, or there's something that's painful. So let me ask you, what are you resisting right now in your life? That answer may illuminate the most powerful path forward. You have to remember, it always starts with you.